How are you doing? Good, good. I'm Dan Shapero, and I'm proud to say that, like all of you, I get people jobs for a living. And actually, my role at LinkedIn is a wonderful one. I'm responsible for the product portfolio of products we bring to recruiters all over the world and job seekers everywhere. And leading up to this trip, like you do, I had my bag, I put it on my bed. My 8-year-old ran into the room and he said, "Dad, where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to Europe to meet with a group of people that, just like me, figure out how to find people jobs. Hopefully, if they do a good job, mommies and daddies come home and have a bigger smile on their face, provide for their families." And my son said, "Well, how many jobs?" And I said, "About 1 million. People in this room create that kind of life for roughly 1 million people all over the world." And so I'm incredibly happy to be here sharing this moment with all of you. If you actually look at the screen behind me, you'll see people that lives we've changed. In fact, people whose you've impacted by finding that next opportunity. And I find that in the day of interviews and emails, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that every open rec is an opportunity to change someone's life, and every new hire the chance to change the trajectory of your company. This moment's also a special one because what we're going to share with you today, as what Jeff mentioned before, is a completely new way that we're thinking about our product portfolio. We believe that this moment is much like the first conference that we held nearly 10 years ago, where a new set of strategies are going to transform the recruiting landscape. At the first Talent Connect, our customer conference back in 2010, we gathered a group of people together and we talked about how we're going to leverage all of the new information that was available as part of LinkedIn to rethink how recruiting worked. We had all this information of people's profiles and their connections, what they were interested in, and we could leverage it to find new ways to engage passive talent. And as a result of all of that collaboration with many of you, we figured out how to build products that changed the way that we engaged not just active talent, but passive talent. In fact, I had the team pull a visual of the first version of Recruiter. I don't know if anyone who sees what Recruiter looks like today, but this was the first version. It looks so antiquated. But at the time, this was a breakthrough product. It allowed you to reach out to people that were completely invisible before. It was a breakthrough product. And we believe that where we are today and what we're going to be sharing with you over the course of this presentation are going to be similarly breakthrough products that change how we think about recruiting. So that's what I'd like to talk to you about. It's actually not that long ago that we lived in a world of purely active talent. If you're new to recruiting, there was this time when most professionals around the world were invisible, where the only people that you could see were either the people that were actively looking for work or people who you kept in that notebook of names that you would reach out to when an open rec came. And recruiters would work tirelessly to build relationships with a short list of candidates that from time to time they would always reach out to figure out their next role. In fact, I remember this story that my dad told me. This is my dad, Norm. I love this photo. Love the tie. It's killing it. And my dad worked at a tech company, and one day his boss walked into his office and said, "Norm, congratulations. You've been promoted, and as a result of your promotion, you're now being entrusted with the most confidential of corporate information, something that we're willing to put in your hands, and you have to be very careful about it. A company phone book." As if somehow if the list of names and phone numbers of the company's employees got out in the wild, the company would be devastated. Employees would walk out the door left and right, and they wouldn't have a business. It was a time when talent was completely invisible, and employers, many of them, worked tirelessly to keep their employees not understood by the outside world so they couldn't be poached. We're in a completely different world now where both active and passive talent is visible to recruiters all over the world. And so we need to figure out how our strategies are going to evolve where data is much more ubiquitous. Whereas before, the hardest part of filling any role was finding a list of names to call, we need to figure out how we're going to succeed in a world where other companies have the same information that we do. We have a new set of modern recruiting challenges. The first challenge is about universal access. Like I mentioned, data is now accessible to recruiters all over the world. And so it's not about finding out who to contact, it's about how to win with the people that you really want to engage with. And similarly, candidates have more information than they've ever had before. Today, there are millions of opportunities on LinkedIn. Candidates have more options. And we'll talk about this in a second, but particularly with millennials, the mindset of how people think about their next opportunities have changed. And finally, the world of talent has never been more competitive than it is right now. The expectations of hiring managers has been raised. The number of requirements that they place on any open rec is higher than it's ever been before. And because they know that candidates are on LinkedIn, their sense is that it's just there for the taking. Why don't you just reach out to the people that are here? So we need to manage our internal conversations differently, and we need to figure out how to win in a world where many companies are targeting the same people that we are. And so how do we operate in a world with these modern recruiting challenges? We think we have an answer. And I love this quote from Nick at Intuit, because it defines how he's thinking about, as modern talent acquisition leader, how he's thinking about solving these challenges. And the answer is with data. Nick has amassed at Intuit an enormous set of information and is using his analysts and technology that he's building to think about how to take that data and turn it into advantage. This is a product leader's dream, a quote like this. This is a client who has found an edge and is willing to work very hard to figure out how to turn that edge into reality for his team. And so the question for us is, how do we turn that kind of edge into something that's accessible to companies all over the world so we can give advantage to all of you in the war for talent? As we look forward over the next 10 years, whereas passive recruiting was the discipline that guided how all of us advanced our organizations over the last 10, and believe me, there's much more progress we can make about how to engage passive talent, we think that the next 10 years is going to be about a new recruiting strategy based on data. There are going to be two modern disciplines that teams are going to need to adapt to win in the future era. The first is great recruiters with great instincts. In fact, if you looked on LinkedIn today, what you'd realize is that recruiting talent is one of the most heavily demanded skill sets on the LinkedIn platform, right up there with data science and machine learning and digital marketing and social media. Recruiting talent has never been in such high demand. So you need great recruiters with great instincts to engage talent, to assess it, to have conversations with your internal stakeholders, but you need to manage and marry those great recruiters with insights that allow them to do their job more efficiently and more effectively. So we believe that the future, the world of talent intelligence, the trend that will define the next 10 years, will be one where we marry those two things together. Great recruiting teams with great insights that allow them to do their jobs effectively based on data and the modern technologies available to us in machine learning and AI. So let's talk about where this data is actually all going to come from. As Jeff mentioned, more members around the world are using LinkedIn more often to do a wider range of things. They're getting their news, they're connecting with old colleagues, they're learning new skills. And what happens is that with every engagement that we have, we're learning something new about that person. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But what's interesting is that coupled with that rise of engagement, as Jeff shared, has been an explosion of jobs exploration on the platform. And what's interesting is that those two trends, growth in LinkedIn engagement and growth in jobs exploration, are fundamentally linked. And because every time someone comes to LinkedIn to read an article or get their daily news, it's an opportunity to share with them a new opportunity. And because we see what they're reading or who they're connecting with or what they're learning, we know a little bit more about what opportunity might pique their interest to change the trajectory of their career. Job exploration on the platform has absolutely exploded. Right now, over 20 million members every week around the world, professionals, are looking at jobs on LinkedIn, generating north of 14 million applications across 11 million opportunities. I want to take a moment to dig underneath these numbers a little bit, because I think the trends are interesting. The first trend is that whereas when I joined LinkedIn almost 10 years ago, it really was a Silicon Valley, New York, London, tech-focused population, about 20 million members. At 530 million members, the people engaging in job exploration on LinkedIn is a true cross-section of the professional workforce. Of course, there are salespeople and marketers and software engineers, but there are sous chefs and chemists and store managers, architects, It's a true cross-section of the global economy. And because it's a cross-section, it's also very high millennial population. And millennials look for jobs differently. We used to live in this world of you were either active talent or you were passive talent. And about 20% of the world at any given time was in this active state, either they were unemployed, which in professional terms is very uncommon. Most professionals on LinkedIn that look for jobs are gainfully employed. Or they were passive, which was about 80%. The modern millennial doesn't think about the world that way. 80% of millennials are wondering at any given time whether the job they're in is the right one. It doesn't mean they're searching, but they're curious. Every time they read an article about a hot company, it reminds them in the back of their mind if they're doing the right thing. And so we need to think about how we engage millennials in a way that meets them where they are. And that is a mobile-first, recommendation-centric world. They are not going to find their next job by searching. They will find their next job by looking at their phone and being recommended something that piques their interest. And so how do we use all of the data available to us to adapt to the modern way that the best people find their next opportunities? And the answer starts with data. Because of all the engagement that's happening on LinkedIn, we believe that we can stitch together a fundamentally different view of all of the talent and all the opportunities. On the talent side, of course, we have a sense of who you are, your capabilities. We can look at your interests. We can understand your motivations. We can understand where in the job-seeking process you are, whether you're highly motivated to make a change or just curious about what's out there. All of those things define what's going to get you excited so we can speak to you on your terms, so we can share with you jobs that are going to drive interest. And then how do we marry that with a deep understanding of what employers are looking for? Because every time you conduct a recruiter search or respond to an applicant or make a hire, that's a little signal of data that we can use to match people with what you're looking for. Because we need to make perfect matches. We need to deliver to you candidates that aren't just great fit, but are the ones that want to engage with you. And similarly, every time you run a recruiter search, we want to show you people that are capable, but people that are also going to respond. And this is where AI and machine learning can take our capabilities to a fundamentally new level. We're going to use the rest of the presentation to share with you how this framework of talent intelligence, using data to reinvent every step in the recruiting process and allowing you to marry those insights with great insights from your team, is the next generation of recruiting strategy. And so to bring that roadmap to life, to show with you how we're going to take these skills and these capabilities into the core products that you use every day, I'd like to bring up John Jerson, who runs LinkedIn Talent Solutions product. Welcome up, John.
Thanks, man. Thank you, Dan. It's great to be here. Hi, everybody. I'm John Jerson. I know so many of us have heard quite a lot about artificial intelligence lately, and with so much information out there, it can actually be a little hard for any of us to understand what's actually going on. So I'd like to start by taking just a minute to explain why we're talking about AI now. We see AI more and more these days. For example, in the way Netflix recommends movies. But it certainly isn't new. In fact, AI efforts originally started in the 1950s with the founding of labs in places like MIT. And these early systems were already doing something pretty incredible. They would take a bunch of data as input, and they would use that data to learn. The software got better at whatever it was designed to do. But there was a problem. As you kept feeding more and more data into these early systems, they couldn't keep learning. They hit a plateau. But we're talking about AI today because just a few years ago, something changed. In 2012, a Stanford professor named Andrew Ng, the guy that taught me about AI, he pioneered a technology called deep learning and got it to scale in new ways. So as you kept feeding more data in, the system could keep getting better. His breakthrough was an improvement in performance of 10,000%. 10,000%. This was one of the major technological leaps of our times. And it helped set off a wave of innovation that now powers some of the most impressive systems on the planet, from search engines and self-driving cars to IBM's Watson. Now, earlier, Jeff and Dan mentioned another important wave, the increasing importance of talent. More and more every year, the people you hire determine the success or failure of the company that you work in. And together, these two forces will have much greater impact than either of them would have on their own. It won't happen overnight or even in the next year, but these forces stand to reshape our industry. They've already started to shape our products. So I'd like to share just a few examples of where this is showing up in Recruiter, in jobs, and in the broader ecosystem. In each of these cases, we've made a set of subtle changes with dramatic impact. But let's start simple. You might not realize it, but your teams already use AI in Recruiter every day. Anytime you type a search for something like a designer, we're enhancing your instincts with insights from our data in the form of smart search suggestions. Because you shouldn't have to be able to think of the myriad ways a designer might describe their relevant skills. Let me put it to you this way. If I asked you to list all of the roughly 200 countries in the world, I bet almost no one could do it. I know I couldn't. But if I asked you something else, if I gave you a piece of paper with a bunch of words on it, and just asked you to mark the ones that were countries, that would be easy. Fire truck, Ecuador, shoelace. That's instincts paired with insights, making all of us geography geniuses. And that's what our platform is doing. It's taking something incredibly hard, like crafting the perfect search, and serving you up great answers you might never have thought of. Because no one can think of the thousands of universities, the tens of thousands of skills, the literally millions of companies that might be relevant to the search that you're doing. But the point is, when you do search in Recruiter, you don't have to craft the perfect search on your own, because our AI is there to help. But that's just the first step. Let's talk about something even more sophisticated. We recently launched the Likely to Respond Spotlight, which is our most powerful spotlight yet, because it uses every signal on the LinkedIn platform to intelligently determine a candidate's interest in you. So let me show you how this works. You click on the spotlight, and it's like it's instantly answering dozens of questions that you would have for a candidate to see if they might be a fit. Things like, have they interacted with our talent brand? Have they looked at similar roles in the past? Are they willing to relocate? And it doesn't just use the answers to these questions. It actually looks for patterns in those answers that have led to success for similar searches before. And finally, it ranks all of the candidates so that the ones you see first are the ones that fit best. And all of this happens for you with a click of a mouse. But these features don't just look cool. We actually know that they're working. Jeff mentioned earlier, in-mail response rates have increased by 51% in the last year, and that's fantastic, but it's actually just the start of the good news. In the last year, the total number of continuing two-way conversations started in LinkedIn Recruiter has almost doubled. And if you use certain new features like the Open a New Opportunities Spotlight, every in-mail you send is twice as likely to turn into a hire as it was before these features. I was so excited to see that. I mean, conversations and hires is exactly what we want to be giving to you, and they've doubled. So, of course, we're doing more here. We're thinking about big changes in the experience of Recruiter. As we get better at understanding what you're searching for and better at helping you find it, we're thinking about things like, what if doing a search in Recruiter didn't require a search at all? If we know what you're looking for and we see someone who's a great fit, why would we wait until you do a search to connect you? So that's how we're thinking about the future of Recruiter. There's so much more happening in jobs. Our jobs product has grown tremendously. Just a few years ago, we had 300,000 jobs on the site. Today, that number has grown over 30 times to 11 million. There are more people looking at jobs on LinkedIn than ever before, and they're looking at a wide variety of jobs. But it's not just about people looking. It's about getting the right people to apply. So on top of all this growth, we're adding a new layer of power through artificial intelligence. We've always used our rich profile information to help target your jobs to the right person, but increasingly we're adding a much deeper understanding of candidates. Members tell us so much about who they are and what they're looking for on LinkedIn. Things like what type of job they're interested in, their relocation preferences, work authorization, and we don't just see what jobs they're looking at, but everything that they do on LinkedIn and who they're connecting to. We've even started asking for feedback on their job matches so we can show them more of the kind of jobs that they like. And examining all of this behavior of members on LinkedIn allows us to create insights beyond their profile, insights into their psychology that help us target your job to the right person at the right time, those moments when they're most open, even though they might not be looking. And we know exactly what they want to see, too, not just the right job, but the right commute, the right salary, and friends that already work there. So the job-seeking experience has changed quite a bit on LinkedIn, though I know all of this is invisible when you're posting a job, except for one part. I think the impact is visible, which is becoming clearer and clearer. Over the last couple of years, the number of applications going to jobs that all of you and other folks have posted to LinkedIn have more than doubled. And as we've continued to drive more traffic and make higher quality matches, it's been really exciting for us to see so many more people getting hired on LinkedIn. So, of course, we're doing more here also. Next year, we're launching a new feature called job targeting, which takes the next step by asking you for specific input on who you want to see your jobs. And if we know who you want to show your jobs to, we can show them to people who are more likely to get those jobs. It's a win for everybody. So, just like in Recruiter, we're also thinking about big changes in how we connect you to the best applicants. We know the best people don't always take the time to complete an application, but if we can use our data to predict who those best applicants are, we can make it easier for them to signal their interest. Maybe even do things like put them on your calendar automatically. So that's how our jobs product is evolving. But this trend of AI, it extends well beyond our own core products. It applies to the end-to-end hiring process, regardless of what system you're using. That's why last year, we launched our most powerful and robust integration with applicant tracking systems ever, Recruiter System Connect. It's a suite of features that enable your ATS and LinkedIn to work better together. So I'll show you just a couple of quick examples. When you're searching in Recruiter and you find a profile that looks good, you want to reach out, usually the first thing you want to do is look in your ATS. Has somebody already talked to this person? What happened? What was the outcome? Now, instead of digging through your ATS for those insights, we're layering them right on top of the LinkedIn profile so you can make the decision about what to do with the full information immediately. And companies that are turning on Recruiter System Connect today are also powering their past applicant spotlight, which uses insights from your ATS to help guide you to the best fitting candidates in Recruiter. This increases your response rate over InMail by another 45 to 50%. There are people sending like 100 messages and starting 50 conversations using this spotlight. And next year, we're doing even more. We're launching a new feature called LinkedIn Match that uses LinkedIn profile information to deliver insights on candidates that are in your ATS no matter where they came from. So you can prioritize the best applicants, making sure they don't get lost, and saving you time. The first set of Recruiter System Connect partners are starting to launch now. And we're excited to say there are more ATS companies partnering with us than ever before. So I've given you just a handful of examples, but this trend is playing out throughout our products. We've gone from using profile information to a deep understanding of candidates and a deeper understanding of you and what you're looking for. And we've already seen twice as many applications, twice as many conversations and hires from key features. Our products have grown twice as valuable. And they're only getting more valuable. In just the time since Dan started talking a few minutes ago, we've collected data on 10 million interactions on LinkedIn. In total, we have hundreds of billions of data points. That's why I'm here. That's why I joined LinkedIn, because a dream from the 1950s is finally coming true due to a breakthrough from 2012. And as the data keeps pouring into LinkedIn's massive data set, the algorithms will keep learning. The products will keep getting better. That's what makes AI such a powerful trend. But I want to end on the most important point, because it's not about our products. It's about you. It's about the people that you talk to. All of these product changes exist for one reason: to make your jobs easier so you can focus more on candidates instead of keywords. Thank you. And back to Dan.
I think that stuff is so cool. Really excited about how the roadmap is coming along to make the products like Recruiter, Jobs even better, how we can embed the intelligence that we have into your entire workflow through Recruiter System Connect. And the idea that the technology has gotten to a place where we can feed into AI an ever-growing set of billions and even trillions of data points, and the system continues to learn with every new interaction is just mind-blowing. It's really exciting to be in a place where the technology has gotten to this level of sophistication and where we can really focus on how do we make LinkedIn data as powerful as possible for all of you to make you as successful as we can. It's not just theory, though. We're already seeing the features that John talked about play out in clients all over the world, and particularly in Europe. For ABB, we saw a 500% increase in traffic to their experiences, and with Dyson, over a 200% increase. And so we're looking forward to working with you to see these kinds of results play out in some of our core products that your teams use every day. Now, for the rest of the presentation, I'm excited that we're going to share with you two different product announcements that we think are really exciting. In fact, I've been at LinkedIn almost 10 years, and these two announcements map to two of the most frequently requested things I've heard from clients in my time. The first one harkens back to the idea of Recruiter System Connect, where our goal of talent intelligence is to infuse data and insights into every step of the recruiting process. And one of the challenges that I often hear about from clients is, well, I have this LinkedIn Recruiter product, which is where I source, and then I have this ATS product, which is where I manage my clients, but I really want a single view. I want to be able to understand my full pipeline, and it's really hard to do. And so we've been working on our integrations, and Recruiter System Connect is the latest incarnation of that. But when I ask clients where they do it today, they do it here. Microsoft Excel, which is a fantastic product. But it's not built for this. You don't want to manage your full end-to-end pipeline here. You want to do it here. And so next year, we're going to be coming to market with the LinkedIn Hiring Platform, a single place to source and manage candidates and applicants across the entire funnel. It's a little early to be talking about the details of the product, but what I'd like to do through our research is to share a set of core guiding principles that we're using to define the product's capabilities. 3 things. The first is one funnel. The idea in this product is that there's a single view of everything from the talent pool of who you're looking for, to sourcing, to interviewing, and eventually to hire in one place. The second thing is, based on AI and machine learning, it's going to be a learning system. So with every time you look at a candidate and you decide to spend time with them or not, to hire them or not, the system learns more about what you're looking for. And that has the potential to make every hire easier than the last one. Because the more that we understand what you're trying to achieve, the better we can optimize the jobs distribution you have, the recruiter search results that you get, even automatically reach out to candidates on your behalf based on what we know you want. And we think that has the potential to be very powerful. And then finally, this idea that data should be infused in every step in your flow to help your job be easier. And so I want to dig into one very specific nuance amongst many of an area we think data can be quite helpful. And that's that standard process of coming in on Monday and seeing a stack of people that applied to your job and trying to figure out who to spend time with. And so what we're going to do is we're going to stack up these candidates and not only share with you the information that they've provided, but make it really easy to figure out what to do as your next step. And so here's Clyde. Clyde looks like a pretty good candidate, very interested in your role. Looks like he knows someone at your firm that he worked with previously. One click, I'd like to ask that employee for feedback of whether we should spend more time. Here's Justin. Pretty sure Justin didn't even read the job description, has no experience relevant to the skills that you're asking for. Let's move on. Here's Cliff. Very good candidate, also looks interested. Let's bring him in for an interview. And finally, here's Janie. Super interested, super capable, looks like a perfect fit, reasonably interested. Rather than inviting her in for interview, let's schedule a dinner with one of our executives to see if we can get her more engaged. And so the idea is that because we have all these signals about who the candidate is, what they're capable of, what they're interested in, and we can learn what you care about, we can bring a much more robust sense of how to spend your time intelligently and focus less effort on figuring out how to sort through 1,000 names and focus your time on how do you spend with the 20 who you're really engaged with in a single place. So we're excited to bring that product to market next year, and we'll be excited to share some of the new ideas that we have in it over the coming months. There's one more product that we're excited to share with you in the next section of the keynote. And that is about a challenge that I think we've all experienced all the time, which is how do you think about using data, not just at the level of making an individual hire, but at the level of talent strategy? Increasingly, we're in a world where the questions that we get from the business, from our CEOs, from our C-suite, from our business leaders about how to navigate the talent landscape are getting increasingly challenging and ever more specific. And I think it's a challenge, but a huge opportunity for all of us to elevate our game to become talent advisors to the entire company. Because if you think about all the different capital that a company employs, whether it be financial capital, intellectual capital, it really is human capital that is the thing that defines who wins and who loses in our markets. That is the economic truth of the day. And I think we have a tremendous opportunity to take data and change the conversation within our executive teams about how to win the game with our people. And so I actually experienced this firsthand just a couple months ago. I was meeting with a client, and he said, Dan, honestly, we're struggling to meet our targets for hiring, and I think our strategy's broken. My instincts are that we don't really have access to the talent in the areas we're looking, and our brand's not strong in the areas that we have seen some traction because people aren't taking the roles. But I don't have the data to prove it. I think we need to do something different, but I'm not quite sure if I have the information to get consensus amongst my leadership. And so can you go and pull some information and come back, and I can use that to maybe increase the conversation. So we went off and did some information. And as it turns out, delivered him a report, and he looked at it, and his eyes just lit up, and he ran out in the hall, ripping the paper out of my hand directly to the CEO's office, and said, look, this is what I've been trying to tell you. We need a completely different plan, and now I have the information to back up what we've believed all along. So let's act on it. And based on that clarity, based on moving from opinion to data, he was able to change the conversation internally with his company. We have this conversation with clients thousands of times every year, if not 10,000. And we're excited to share with you something that will allow us to bring those kinds of insights, and rather than coming to ask us for them, to put them directly in your hands so that you can drive talent strategy and decision-making within your own firm. And so to bring that vision to life, I'd like to bring up Lindsay from our Insights team to share with you something that many clients have told me is the coolest thing that we've launched since LinkedIn Recruiter. Come on up, Lindsay.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Brady. I've been working in the data analytics field for more than 10 years now. And while it's always been a fast-growing field, what we've seen in the pace of growth in the last few years has been faster than I've ever witnessed before. When we see that data is expected to double every 2 years for the next decade, it's really clear that we're in exponential times. But for me, it's also really exciting times. Here at LinkedIn, for the last 5 years, during this really fast-paced growth, I've had the absolute privilege of leading the EMEA Insights team. Many of you will have worked with me or somebody on my team and be really familiar with what we do. For those of you who haven't, we partner with our customers using LinkedIn Insights to help answer their most challenging, most thorny, and often most strategic business questions. Questions like these. And what we have found through looking at all of these questions is these questions tend to fall into two main categories. Either you're looking to execute on a growth strategy, whether that's to enter a new market or expand into a new region, or you're facing a business challenge and you just don't know what direction to take. Let me give you a real example to bring this to life. I got a call from Jenny. Jenny is the Global Head of Talent Acquisition at a finance company in the UK. She called me and explained a challenge that they were facing. The number of IT professionals that they needed to hire had doubled, but time to hire was getting longer and longer, leading to massive gaps in the business and also frustration on her team. And what really baffled Jenny is she hadn't changed her strategy, but what seemed to work in the past just no longer seemed to be working. Jenny's instinct told her that market dynamic had changed and that they would need to change their strategy, but they really just didn't know how. So the first thing we did working with Jenny was to really assess the problem and get to the core of the challenge. My team worked with Jenny using LinkedIn Insights to analyze the data, and we quickly saw that IT professionals were in higher demand than ever before in the UK. Not only that, but attracting them into the finance industry was the most challenging industry to move them into. This really gave Jenny that reassurance that this wasn't a skills gap on her team that they were facing. It wasn't a company challenge. It was an industry-wide challenge. So once we really understood that challenge, the next step for us was to provide an actionable recommendation of what Jenny and her team could do to increase their success rates. We used LinkedIn data in order to find the skills of the professionals they need and to recommend what industries they should look at and what regions they should look at to increase their success rates across the board. For Jenny, this meant that they increased their success rates and they could attend their next executive meeting armed with these invaluable insights, and she could be really confident in her strategy and the timeline that she had committed to delivering it in. And this might sound familiar to a lot of you because this is just one example of a typical request that we receive. In the last year alone, the Insights team has received over 10,000 requests, very similar to this, with our customers who need help and they just don't know what direction to take. In fact, the LinkedIn Insights team has doubled every year for the last 5 years. We now have over 200 coders and data analysts, analyzing data, fulfilling requests, and helping you to be more successful in your businesses. But for me, what makes my job so enjoyable and fulfilling is behind that request is a person who needs help or a company that needs help. They recognize that LinkedIn can be the one to help them. And so if we look at this example, you can see that this is one of our customers when we gave her the insights that she needed to be successful with her strategy. What's really striking in this image is this is a really emotional reaction, not the typical reaction that you would associate with data. And for me, this reaction comes from a disconnect in the industry. We see this reaction all the time in our customers firsthand. And for me, this disconnect is shown in this research. Over 70% of CEOs view talent intelligence as a source of competitive advantage. But the problem that we see is on the other side, only 1/3 of HR teams feel good or great in this area. So if you feel that you've really struggled to find the insights that you need to be successful, I want you to know that you're not alone. Far from it. You're actually in the majority. We know that we have a gap in the industry. It's becoming really apparent. And our immediate response is to give you more data. We have lots of data. But when we talk to you, it becomes clear that you don't want more data. You're feeling overwhelmed in reports, spreadsheets, and data. You don't need data. What you need is insight. And not just insight, but real-time insight, actionable insight, and on-demand insight to really answer the business questions that you're facing as they arise. Over the last few months, we've talked to hundreds of you, and the number one thing that we have learned is getting access to these insights shouldn't involve you dealing with data, shouldn't involve you writing code yourselves. You want us to deal with the data and take you from code to clicks. This means customers like you gaining access to the insights, not after 2 weeks working with LinkedIn, not after hiring a team of consultants, but on your laptop in 10 minutes. And that's why I'm absolutely delighted with today's announcement. We've partnered with our product team over the last year to really bring this vision to life. And today we are announcing the product we are working on, LinkedIn Talent Insights. This will be your go-to destination to really get the answers that you need to drive your talent strategy. Using this tool, you'll be able to gain access to the insights you need to recruit confidently and effectively. To give you a sneak peek at this product, I'd love to welcome to stage our product leader who's bringing this vision to life, Eric Auski.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'm excited to take you all on a tour of LinkedIn Talent Insights. But before I get started, I'd like to start with a confession. So I'm hoping that I can be honest in this room. This is probably the most obvious product idea of all time. But it's fair to ask why, after all these years, we're finally building a product like this. And the answer is quite simple. It's that our data is ready for a product like this. The challenge of building LinkedIn Talent Insights can be summed up in a single question. How do we harness all of the intelligence from more than 500 million members, 11 million jobs, 18 million companies, and 50,000 standardized skills in a product that everyone in this room can learn to use in just a few minutes? For me and the amazing team that's been working on this product over the last several months, it's felt like the opportunity of a lifetime to take this incredible data set on the global workforce and bring it to life. We're providing unprecedented visibility into hidden talent pools around the world and the movement of professionals between cities and between companies. What we hope we're building is a product that will help you make both strategic decisions and tactical decisions, and everything in between. So with that, I'll take you on a tour of the product. The first version of the product will include two different types of reports, talent pool and company. So we'll start with talent pool. So let's imagine I just got a request for an analysis on electrical engineers from the head of our largest business unit. So I click the talent pool report, and I'm prompted to start my query with a title or a skill. I'm not sure exactly what skills I need, so I'm going to start with the title, electrical engineer. And because I want a really broad view of the market, I'm going to search in Europe. And from just that simple query, here's what I learn about electrical engineers in Europe. How many there are, how many have changed jobs in the last 12 months, how many job openings there are for electrical engineers right now, and how difficult it is to hire them. But I can also go deeper. I can compare locations like London to Istanbul and Athens to Dublin. And as I'm looking at this table, I notice that Helsinki has particularly low demand, so it may represent a hidden gem for recruiting. I can also see how this talent pool is migrating between cities in Europe and in and out of industries. So now we have a geographic perspective on this talent pool. But what about the employer perspective? Before you decide to open a new office somewhere, or even your next requisition, you need to understand your competition. So now at a glance, I can see who employs electrical engineers in Europe today. Which of these companies are growing that part of their workforce the fastest? Who's losing electrical engineers, and which companies are doing a great job of retaining that talent? Next, because LinkedIn facilitates millions of interactions every day between employers and job seekers, we can also provide deep insight on the strength of your brand within a talent pool. We can show you how engaged this talent is with your company relative to your peers. Or how likely is an electrical engineer to respond to an in-mail from one of your recruiters relative to your competition. And finally, how does this talent perceive you? Are there any perception gaps that you might need to close in order to be more effective closing the deal with candidates? So this may sound like a lot, but every insight you've seen is available from one simple query in a compact report. All of the insights are available in snapshot form or in depth, depending on what you need. And what's really exciting is after just a few minutes of research, you're ready to go back to the head of your largest business unit as an expert and make some recommendations. So before I move on, I want to show two things that I think make this product really easy to use. So in the query we just did, we used a title instead of skills. But realistically, you define talent pools using a combination of titles and skills. So how do you know you have the right population represented in your analysis? So I click the Profiles tab in the Talent Pool report, and I see a sampling of the profiles that are included in this analysis. Now let's say these profiles are close, but they're not exactly what I need. I simply click into the left rail, and I add a couple of skills that I know are in demand at my company right now. Click Apply, and immediately I have new results. The second thing is that every insight you see here is available to be exported with beautiful, easy-to-read visualizations. So you can share them with any of your key stakeholders. Workforce planners, please, HRBPs, recruiters, or other key business leaders. Next, let's explore the second type of report, the company report. So when I was researching electrical engineers in Europe, I noticed that one company in particular was growing that part of its workforce really quickly, Flexus. So I clicked to learn more, and immediately I see the answers to questions that up until now were nearly impossible to find, or they required a dedicated team of analysts doing extensive internet research. For example, how is this company's workforce distributed by location and by job function? What skills does this workforce have? Which skills are growing the fastest? And also, how does this company's workforce composition, skills composition, compare to mine? How is talent flowing in and out of this company? Where does Flexus hire from? And when employees leave that company, where do they go? As you can see, these are not just recruiting questions. I believe these questions represent talent strategy at its best. Talent strategy that can move your entire organization in new directions because you and your teams have a finger on the pulse of your competition and your peers, or even the latest startup to launch a product in your industry. Over the last year, as I've shown early previews of this product, inevitably someone in the room says, I needed insights like this yesterday. Someone asked me for this. And we live in a world in which almost every random question you have can be answered in just a few seconds. Who directed that movie? Who won the 1986 First Division title? What was the name of the supervillain in Season 8, Episode 2 of The Simpsons? Does anyone know the answer to that question? It's Hank Scorpio. But in talent, whenever you get a really urgent question, there's been no way to find the right answer quickly. I believe LinkedIn Talent Insights changes that. And for us, this is just the beginning of a much more ambitious vision that we have. We imagine a world in which you come here to ask any talent-related question you have about talent inside your company or outside your company. We imagine a world in which the silos and barriers that have existed in HR data between functions like recruiting, workforce planning, compensation, learning and development, and employee engagement no longer exist. So when is this product launching? We're kicking off a very small test this week with a live product, but we're planning on a much wider release next year, in the middle of the year, around summer. If you want to learn more today, you can go to the gallery, and there are some booths set up with live demos of the product. I also highly recommend that you check out the HoloLens demo if you have a chance to do that. But I can say sincerely, we could not be more excited to put this product in your hands. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Dan.
Super excited about that product, and particularly excited to put a product in your hands that allows you to operate at a different level of advisory in your companies. It's really exciting, and the goal, as Eric mentioned, is to bring this out in the summer of next year. So I just want to do a little bit of a recap before we close out this morning's session. Whereas the last 10 years of recruiting was about learning advanced passive sourcing strategies, we believe that the next year is about talent intelligence and about using data in all aspects and about candidates, about their capabilities, marrying that with deep understanding of what you're looking for and to reach every step of the recruiting process. In the way that you leverage your entire recruiting process through our System Connect integrations and through the hiring platform, products that can help you advise your organization.
Sorry, can't hear me? Sorry. How about that? Thank you. Sorry about that. I'll do a quick recap for those that couldn't hear. What I was saying is that we are all in on this idea that we can use LinkedIn data with AI and machine learning to reinvent every step in the recruiting process. We're going to embed that in the core products that you use every day, in Recruiter and Jobs, in different ways that you integrate LinkedIn throughout every step in the hiring process, through integrations like Recruiter System Connect, and through our hiring platform product, and also to help you make great talent strategy decisions through Talent Insights coming out this summer. So I'm really excited about the direction that our product is taking. We are absolutely all in on this new strategy, and I wanted to thank you for being here with us this morning and to spend some time with us to talk about the future of recruiting. We hope you have a fantastic day, and next, I believe we have the break. Thank you.